The inspirational leader works on their own weaknesses. They're constantly trying to improve themselves. Now, in a team, you can get away with having weaknesses. You can say, well, I'm hopeless at detail, but it's okay because one of the other people in the team deals with that. So nobody's perfect, but a team can be. But unfortunately, if you're a leader, you've got to be perfect, or you've got to try to be as perfect as you can. It's not acceptable if you're a leader just to say, well, I've got a bit of a short temper, it's how I am. You've got to work on that. So it's tough at the top, but there you are. So what are your weaknesses, and are you working on them? And I'd like to suggest a few possible weaknesses that you might want to think about. If you've got any of these, you need to work on them. There's a model of personality I really like, which I'm going to show you here, which is the 4 types of people. You may well have seen it. We've got the introvert, quiet people on the left, and we've got the more chatty people on the right. And then the top 2 are the logic, fact-based type people, and the bottom 2 are more emotional, more people-based. They're more ruled by their heart than their head. So we've got 4 types, and I just thought it'd be interesting to talk about what weaknesses a leader might have for each of those. So top left, we've got the analytical. These are the logical, systematic people. We tend to think of engineers and accountants as being analytical. They're not always, of course, although they quite often are. So if you're one of these people, sometimes called blue people as well, I think the weaknesses to consider are courage. Are you brave enough? Because analytical people always have reasons why it's a bad idea to do something. So do you have enough courage? Because I think good leaders have courage. And similarly, are you decisive enough? You don't want to spend too long weighing up all the pros and cons. You've got to make decisions. There's nothing worse than a leader who won't make a decision. And then there's warmth and enthusiasm. Quite often blue people are very fact-based of, well, I've calculated the numbers, what more do you want? And ideally, you'd be a bit warmer towards the people and a bit more enthusiastic of, we can do it. So I think blue people sometimes think it's too gung-ho, it's too much sort of just fluff, saying, yeah, come on, we're going to be the best, come on. But a lot of people want that. So if you're a blue person and you want to be a great leader, you've got to work on your enthusiasm. Now, going across to the red people, top right, these are the controllers. What do they have to work on? And I think patience immediately jumps out. If you're a leader and you're red, and I think probably more leaders are red than any other colour, then you need to work on being patient with other people, because they're not all as fast as you, they're not all as clever as you. So work on your patience, calmness, and work on empathy. Think about, how will this person feel when I give them this big challenge? How will they feel when I tell them they're useless? So work on your empathy. Consciously try to think, how will the other person feel? And let people learn through their mistakes rather than just telling them they're no good or not even risking. People have to make mistakes. It's the only way they can really learn. Going down to the bottom right, the enthusiast, who is often called yellow, I think where they perhaps could be a better leader is explaining the detail to the blue people. Obviously, the problems are across the diagonals on this chart. So the yellow people, when they're dealing with the blue, they often think, well, just do it. Here's the big picture. Let's go. And the blue people are like, no, I need to know every detail before I start. So to slow down a bit and explain the detail to the blue people is an important leadership quality that the yellow people need to learn. Also, try to be the same every day. It's something I've talked about earlier. Yellow people often have ups and downs and moods, so try to be the same every day and the same with each person if you can. And don't frighten people with a massive, great big leap of, we're going to be totally different starting next week. So remember that the blue and the green people will be frightened by that. They won't be excited by leaping into the unknown. They'll find that scary. So you want to help them through by showing them how we're going to do it. We've got a plan. We'll do it one step at a time. It's going to be fine. And finally, the green person, how can they be a great leader? And I think often people underestimate the greens. They think, oh, they're not tough enough to be a boss. But actually, they're really good with people, and they think a lot, and they notice, and they're good listeners. Green people have a lot of strengths. This is the amiables. But what do they need to do to be a really great leader? And I think, first of all, to do those tough things, to make those tough decisions, because sometimes you have to do things that not everyone's going to like. So facing up to being unpopular and detaching yourself from what people will think. Sometimes you have to look at the task and just think, we're going to do this. That area is not profitable. We're going to cut it. And sometimes you have to do that. Also, don't be biased by who you like and who you don't like. Even the people who you don't like, that they all have things to add. And also, don't worry about whether people like you, because I think it's impossible to be a really great leader and be liked by everyone. You can be respected as fair. I think that's probably the most you can hope for. But if you start really worrying about whether people are going to like you or not, that's going to compromise your decision making. But green people are brilliant with relationships, so that's a real strength they've got. I think the only other thing they could probably develop is to hurry up sometimes, because they like to really get to know people and build a big relationship with them. And whilst that's brilliant, I think ideally sometimes they would have to just go in, get the facts and make a decision. Of course, you can always do that by working with a red person and saying, okay, Mr. or Mrs. Red, what do you think we should do? And you could have them as an advisor. But I would like to stress that green people can make really good leaders. And I mentioned Moja Woolley earlier on. He was green. He was a really nice guy and he used to think really carefully before he made decisions. And we would have done anything for him. We were so loyal to him because we felt that he cared about us. So you can be the leader of a massive, great multi-company corporation and be green. So have a think about all of that. Think about what colour you are, what potential weaknesses you might have. You may even want to get feedback from colleagues and then think, how am I going to work on my weaknesses? How can I move towards trying to be perfect?